Appreciate you coming back to this circle. It helps me a lot. You all remember, I think, that my older sister, Germaine Sitting Crow, my last incarnate teacher, and she wouldn't start teaching me till I was over 50. She said I was too stupid. And she was right. So this was her favorite place, Celebration Circle. She loved to come here with you all and do this. So she did for a while when she lived with me. And thank you, Pidama, Wopila. Big thank you to all the music people. I always envy you all, frankly. It looks like you make magic to me. You change things. And that's, in my world, the definition of magic. You change things. You use energy and you change things. So I'm mostly deaf, and I have been a long time. So when I can hear you all on this side that's good, it really seems like magic to me. So I'm always grateful. Like, Wopila Tanka, big thank you. Wopila's like thank you. Tanka is big, big like Wakan Tanka, like people say Great Spirit. It's really the big mystery. It's not spirit at all. So it's good for me to be here because this is like acting on one of Sister's directives, so to speak. As an older sister, she had the right to correct me and the responsibility to teach me. So she exercised both. So being here is what she said was number 3, staying on the clock. The first was to share the medicine that came from her and the people and the earth. And the second was help the people. And the third was stay on the clock. Keep busy. Keep doing it. So it's good. It's good for me. It's funny to hear you say my wisdom. This is not my wisdom. Had a group planned for young people yesterday, like 12 to 18. And what the intent in the group was to share some information with them that they don't get other places. So if that looks like wisdom, that's very cool. It's really just, this is what some people have learned that you all, young people, like 12 to 18, are not going to get at school. You're not going to get it at school. And you might not get it in another church, and you might not get it at home. But there's some things, it's information, that's real obvious, and that a lot of the native cultures point at these things that are obvious, that a lot of our children don't see. And one of the ways people teach in the native cultures to point at something. They say, hey, I'm pointing to this. I'm pointing to this. So that means there's some wisdom is going to come through that person, that they're going to share something. So this part is for me sharing. One of the things that Sister said to me a lot over the years is that if you can share this stuff so people understand you, that's what she said to me, then you have a chance of learning it. Got that? So that's her world. The East and the West, everything's in balance. So you go do this, so you'll be a better man. Not rocket science, huh? So yesterday, the intent was with these young people to share some things with them, to point at them. To point at them. And it might be the information that they might not get other places. That's sort of the premise. Now, what they do with the information is none of my business. In sharing with young people, we don't ever use 8 words. You should, you ought to, you have to, you need to, you most, you must, you're supposed to, and you got to. Those are words that are like magic, except the magic is in the inverse. If I tell myself I should go to sleep, I'm awake all night. If I tell myself I should never get angry, I'm angry a lot. If I tell myself I should forgive, my stomach does this right away. Does that look like forgiveness? That's not forgiveness. This is forgiveness. So some of this stuff to talk with young people about is just information that they didn't have. Like, for example, one of the young people that I see weekly from Hondo, he'd seen a whole bunch of helping people, counselors and therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists. And he didn't like what happened a lot. He didn't feel that he was helped. So he told me in one of the times he came by the office, and the reason I'm sharing this with you is not so much about him, but what we can learn from him. He told me that he spent a lot of time with psychologists, and what they said to him was, you judge yourself. And he, of course, agreed. I judge myself. What he didn't get to with the psychologist is how to cut that out. He didn't get that. It's like people would tell me how you should forgive. You heard the should, so immediately I resisted. But the next part was, give me the instructions. Tell me, how do you do that? How do you forgive? So we're in that kind of territory where people talk about things in a certain way. Like the psychologist said to the young man, like, you judge yourself. You judge yourself. Like, that's two. And so in speaking with the young man, said, well, tell me about this. You judge yourself. So one of you is a judge, and then one of you is the self. Over here. So you, over here, judge yourself. That's two. And he said, yeah. I said, yeah, it is. It's weird, isn't it? So I said, which one are you? He said, wait. I said, yeah, let's wait here for a minute. Let's hang out right here. This is a good spot to kind of hang out. So we were pointing at something. You understand? Pointing at something that he knew at some level. There's nothing I can teach him. I can point to some things, and then he can check them out. And what he does with it is up to him. That's respectful. So he'd seen a lot of therapists that told him he judged himself, and he accepted that. So that's a good place to start, actually. That's what he and I discovered. Because he got to this place, which one is he? Is he the judge? You did a bad job. You didn't go to school. Or is he the one who gets judged? The one who feels like crap? Got that part? When I'm judged, I feel like crap? Got that? That's one of the things we're pointing to. Because we're connecting his emotional well-being with his mental world. Not rocket science, huh? Like, duh. Some of you know that my place where I hang out during the day is a holistic medical clinic. We believe absolutely in the body, mind, spirit connection. And with all the therapists and people this young man had seen, nobody had pointed out to him that when this one over here, the judge, who lived in his mind, you understand that? Nobody else could see the judge. This is a private horror show. You got that? And I'm saying horror show intentionally because this one, the judge in the mind, created suffering over here. And that was going on inside of him, and nobody knew that was going on, and he wondered why he was so pissed off all the time. You know, and this particular young man is 6'3" and 240 pounds. So at 16 years old, that's a lot of pissed off. They had some trouble with him in school, you know. Like a teacher would say, no, you're going to, and he knew that part. But the war was going on inside. He had somebody in his mind who was judging him, a voice. And nobody ever told him, after all those years in therapy and all that diagnosis and all that stuff, nobody ever told him, you have a voice in your mind. That voice is not you, but you have one. Every two-legged on the planet has one. Guess what? You ain't the Lone Ranger here, dude. Now, how many people know that? Everybody know that? It's not rocket science, right? But nobody talked about this to this young guy. Nobody said to him, you have a voice in your mind. And he said, I do. It never shuts up. And I said, well, you're not into this stuff too much because you're 16. But a long time ago, a guy named Buddha said that voice is like a chattering monkey. And the kid said, yeah, that's true. I said, I've noticed that myself. And then this kid, he kind of jumps ahead sometimes, which is really cool to hang out with him. And he said, who is that voice? I said, there we go. We're getting close here, dude. Who is that voice? He said, I don't know. I said, well, that's sort of what we're talking about here today. That's what we're pointing out. You have a voice in your mind, and that voice talks to you, and that voice even uses the generic you. You got that? The voice says, you. Like that. You see the finger? It always goes with it. That's the physical. The physical and the emotional and mental are always connected. So this young dude says, when I'm over here, I feel real sure of myself. And when I'm over here, I feel like crap. I said, yeah, you have a lot of energy over there. Well, who is that? So I asked him to consider, when you were young, you didn't have that. Up to about age 2, if you were precocious, maybe a year and a half, you didn't have that. He said, well, how come I feel so strong over there? I said, well, all that energy belongs to you. When you come over here and feel how much energy is over here, you recognize a large unit of energy that's used in a particular way. It's used to judge, criticize, blame, give you a grade, keep an eye on you, guilt trip you, put you down, humiliate you, create shame, embarrassment, fear, self-pity. This voice over here happens to be very powerful. When you play this role over here, you can feel how much of your energy is invested in creating suffering for you. So I asked him to come back over here, and he said, this sucks. Yes. Yes, and it's not your fault. It is your responsibility to change it. If you want to look at this. Look at this. Look at how this works. There's a voice in your mind, that's not nice to you. And nobody's pointed that out to you. After all the therapy that you've been in, I don't think your mama can get her money back. I just want to suggest to you, it might be worthwhile for you to look at this relationship here, because this is going on inside of you. And if you believe me, that voice, this over here, can create hell on earth. And he said, well, why would I be interested in all that? I would just like that to shut up. I heard there's some good drugs. And I said, well, I'm not going to speak with you about that too much. There may be. The psychiatric drugs won't do it. And he said, well, I know that. I said, no, there's another way. It's a real old way. It's called the enemy way. It's the spirit path, and you're too young to care much about spirit, I think. He said, well, I heard about it. And I said, yeah, it's in here. So part of this for warriors, spiritual warriors, which can be a man or a woman, is to face this. Because he's 16, he likes talk like that. So what do you mean, go to war with it? And I said, no, this one loves war. Now what we're interested in, this one apparently has a lot of power. Power. If this one can create fear, shame, embarrassment, guilt, self-pity, anxiety, if this one has the power to create, it might be worth our while together to learn about this. This is called stalking. This is called stalking because this comes from a hunting society about 10,000 years ago here on Turtle Island, Canada, United States, South America, Turtle Island. This is not from Europe. This is not psychiatry or psychology. Those are both from Europe. This medicine is from here. We would say this is our medicine. If you were born here, you could have this medicine. This medicine says it's worth your while, young man, to face this. It's not your fault you have it. It's your responsibility to change it. And besides that, that has a lot of power. That power belongs to you. You can feel some of it when you come over here and you play that role. You can feel how easy it is to do this, to judge, to criticize, to blame. It's important that you feel how easy it is. And he said, I don't want to believe that's part of me. I said, well, actually it's your training. When you were this big, you didn't care if your friends were black or white or rich or poor or fat or skinny. You didn't care. You had no judgment at all. Up about 18 months to 2 years, you were taught to think. And part of the way you were taught to think is to do this, to judge the world, everything that you see, good or bad. Excuse me, you were given the eyes of the predator. The predator looks at the world as good and bad, right and wrong. You were taught to think that way, to use your vision that way. It's not your fault. It's your training. It's not your fault. However, if you don't like how this voice treats you, it is your responsibility to engage. We call it stalking, to learn about that. I said, I bet you can hear it right now. He said, yeah, that voice is telling me, you can't do this. Don't listen. You can't do this. This is not for you. Don't do this. So I'm back over here with him and saying, you mean while I'm talking to you, that voice is talking to you? He said, you know that goes on all the time. He said, I think that's why I have trouble in school. Could have something to do with it. He said, yeah, when I'm in school, my body's there, but my mind is wandering away. I said, you're not in charge. And he said, apparently not. No. My mind takes trips to the past, journeys into the future. I said, oh, we may be talking about the same thing here again. This part of you can make up stories about what's going to happen and notice that they're never pretty. And he says, well, that's suspicious. I said, it is. Yes. Have you heard of Homeland Security? There it is. There it is. You should be afraid, and you should let me protect you. I know the truth. Do what I tell you to do. Dance that way. Walk that way. Talk that way. Look that way. Act that way. Think that way. Then you'll be okay. And back over here, he said, that voice talks to me like that all the time. I said, yeah, that's Homeland Security, dude. In the big world, some organizations act like that. But that doesn't matter right here in your personal world. And this has a lot of power. So in this medicine, we're interested in this power. Wouldn't it be weird if I could use my self-judgment, which is a weird way to talk, but we have to use words somewhat. Wouldn't it be weird if I could use you to get free of you? Instant concept. That's what this medicine says. If I learn about this training, I can get free of the training. If I don't know about the training, I can't get free of the training. I mean, like, duh, that's obvious, right? It's hard to talk with the fish about water. So this is a little bit like that. So if you can imagine, maybe you can imagine, that none of these young people that I've had the good fortune to hang out with and talk about these things had any of this pointed out to them. Nobody told them, you got a voice in your mind that's giving you a ration of crap all day long. Of course your serotonin's low. So they can give you psychiatric drugs to bring up your serotonin. But it might be good for you to look at this voice that gives you crap all day long. In holistic medicine, we have the idea that if this voice judges him all day long, that lowers his serotonin. Can you imagine that? That this voice has a profound effect on the blood profile, on the immune system, on cortisol, on homocysteine. I mean, it becomes a chemical nightmare when this goes on inside the mind. This has the power to create anxiety. Do you know how many anti-anxiety drugs our culture's developed? Besides whiskey and the illegals. And nobody has talked to any of these young people about this at all. Well, check it out. Has anybody ever talked to you all about it? Didn't learn this in high school, right? It might have been cool to learn this in grade school. You know, if I win the lottery next week, I mean, that's probably what I'm up to. I'm going to do like Bill Gates, you know. I'm going to build some grade schools and have regular school and then teach some of this too. Hey, you don't have to suffer from this your whole life. You can actually use this. You could do an old medicine that comes from the people and learn how to own this power. Learn how to choose how to use this power. So this is supportive and loving rather than critical and judgmental. Consider that as a concept. To transform the manure into roses. Think about that as a concept in the physical world. That's a law in the physical world. You can take the ugliest, smelliest, dirtiest manure and end up getting some really beautiful roses. So native people would say that's kind of a hint from Creator, you know. So this medicine says, operating in that view, we can use you to get free of you. Now that's not a new concept. The great Buddha talked about that about 2,000 years ago. For the people here, they say this medicine started about 10,000 years ago. I don't know. So that's the medicine. So what I'm sharing with you today is the interesting thing of working with young people and realizing, just like me when I was young, nobody pointed this stuff out to me. But it's true for everybody. Like we all have two legs. We all breathe. No matter what else is going on, if we cut, we bleed. The blood is the same stuff. Like our DNA is, you know, close. We all are one, really. And nobody talked with us about this. However, in some native cultures right here in the U.S. and other places, South America and Canada, this stuff is talked about. Memorizing the War of 1812 is that they don't spend much time with that. They spend a lot of time with this. They think this is part of our destiny to wake up to this. It's an interesting belief that this is what's important for a man or woman to own all that and to live with that. They think it means to live as a complete being, to take hydrogen, which is a gas, and to take oxygen, which is a gas, and they're both invisible, and put them together and you get water, which is not a gas and it's visible. So that's the metaphor. In this medicine, we would take this and put these two together and get a third thing, which is neither yin nor yang, neither the predator nor the victim. If you think about it in the ocean, think about shark, wounded fish, and what you end up in the middle with is a dolphin. the most cognizant, powerful mammal in the ocean, and the only one the shark is afraid of. He's not worrying about anything else at all, except this one here in the middle. So that's the medicine. Now, New Age people call that transformation, which I guess is true. When we use words like stalking, like this young man's learning to stalk the energy here, like you stalk an animal, because it has energy. I mean, you can hunt rabbits or you can hunt buffalo. There's a lot more return when you're hunting buffalo. You hunt less often, too. You eat more regularly. If you're living on rabbits, you're doing a lot of hunting. So this is a buffalo. That's how much energy is over here. This is a lot of energy. So for a long time, maybe 30 or 40 years, the word stalking has developed some real negative connotations. So I want to be clear that we know that. However, we still teach it as stalking. People can say the word however they want. In this world, we're stalking you. We're stalking you. Sometimes people teach it as tracking. We're not tracking you. As somebody helped me understand, I could spend days tracking you. That's not what we're up to here. No, we're not tracking you. I can track at you just to take a photograph of you. No. I'm stalking you. I want your energy. I think that belongs to me. I think all of that was stolen from me by my training. Should, ought to, have to, need to, supposed to, must, got to, and better. I think my training was, don't dance that way, don't act that way, don't talk that way, don't marry that person, don't do that for a living. For God's sakes, don't get that tattoo. Don't do that stuff. This is our cultural training. Some of it's good. When I'm out driving around or riding a bicycle with my granddaughter, I want people to agree to drive a certain way so they don't kill us out there. That's not what we're talking about here. One of my granddaughters wouldn't dance with me at a quinceañera when she was 14. She said, Papa, people will look at me and laugh. I said, no, baby, ain't nobody looking at you. This is a good party. This is a good band. They have some good, this is back when I was drinking. They have some good tequila here tonight. And so I said, dance with me. Dance with me. No, Papa, can't do that. I said, you're 14. You love to dance. I've seen you. You love to dance. You're dancing all the time. You go from the laundry room to your bedroom when you're helping your mommy and you're dancing. She said, yes, but, Papa, I can't do it. I can't. It's okay. Okay, Takoja, grandchild. It's okay. So she has this idea that the judge is out there. She doesn't know the judge is in here, in her mind. The other part of the story, I didn't say this to her. I said, granddaughter, as if I were going to say it. I would say, granddaughter, because this is a long time ago. She's in nursing school now, I think. Suppose, your papa has been drinking a little tequila tonight and going back to the hotel where we're staying in my truck, and I could get hit by somebody's semi, I could die tonight. And you will have let the voice in your mind keep you from dancing with your papa. What will you think about for the next 50 years every time you go to a dance? What will the voice in your mind say to you then? Got that? So the voice in the mind will keep her from dancing. Don't dance. People will laugh at you. And that if something had happened to me and she couldn't dance with me ever again, the voice in the mind would give her crap about not dancing. Got that? Both sides, yin yang. So, good thing to talk with grandkids about, if you want to consider these things. As a matter of fact, we can even consider these things for ourselves. Like one of the cool things about working with young people is I get to see stuff that's important for me too, all the time. Like we do a group on Thursday nights. It's free. It's no charge. And sometimes, every once in a while, people say, hey, you're really a nice guy. This group is really for me. Whatever you all are exploring, I'm exploring. Can you understand how good it is for me to be with the young man who wants to be peaceful and happy and strong and be a good man, and to be able to explore this? And nobody else in his life is talking to him about this. It is so cool to be with him as we go over this. It's really good for me. And for him, it's kind of a relief. Because for a long time, he's been thinking there's something wrong with him. And he better not ever talk about this to anybody, or they'll lock him up. If he told a psychiatrist there's a voice in his mind, you know what happens, right? Okay. So that was the intention of being with the young people, to look at some things, to point at some things, see what they want to do with that. Now you understand, as we set it up that way, if we help somebody see something by pointing to it as an us trip, us, like we're all in this together, made sure he understood all the time, there's a reason I know about this. It's not because I read it in a psychology book, I promise you that. No, this was taught to me by my teacher. This is energy. This belongs to you. So when we were together talking about this, it's us facing our responsibility and our power. It's us. And to help him understand, every two-legged you meet, except maybe Down syndrome babies, they don't seem to have this. That's why they call them little Buddhas. They don't care what they have for lunch. They don't care if their hair is combed. They don't care. They're good. They're okay with it all. Whatever they're having for lunch, whatever they're doing, it's okay. Little Buddhas. They don't have much of this. Now they only live to about 25 or 30 too. Maybe that's the trade. So anyway, for him to understand, for this young warrior to understand, and young women could be warriors too, that this is a us trip. And maybe your parents, maybe nobody shared this with them. That's not their fault. That doesn't mean they're stupid or they're hiding anything from you. So that's the benefit of hanging out with these young people. I get to talk about stuff like that. I get to learn from them how it looks to them. Here's something I learned from my two nieces. I used to ask them every year when I saw them, and I'll hurry up with this story, what do you think of adults? And my youngest niece, Carol, used to say, they're crazy. Y'all are crazy. I said, tell me why you say that. And she said, you know my mom? And I said, yeah, it's my sister-in-law. Your mom is my sister-in-law. She said, yeah, of course I know your mom, before you were here. And she said, well, my mom tells me never to lie. And she yells at me, and we fight a lot, and I get put on restriction because she says she catches me lying. And she said, you know, if somebody calls on the phone and she wants me to answer it, she'll say, tell them I'm not here. I'm not here. Tell them I'm not here. She wants me to lie for her. And she thinks I don't notice that. Yeah. Tell me how you feel about her. He said, when I look at that, I don't want to listen to anything she says. So that's a gift from young people. So, thank you all for letting me be here. It's good to share this. It's good for me. It's good to let you know that there's some young people that are interested in doing some different things. It looks like evolution to me. So it's good for me to see it. I think I'm out of time. So thank you all very much.